All right.
Actually, straight up, what did I do here? I did something wrong. Sorry, I printed the wrong agenda here.
I'm putting the agenda in the comments.
Okay. Okay, for another moment.
And then the correct one, the one from yesterday was posted this morning. So Crystal let me know that and I updated it. So the correct one is on the web page now as well.
Okay, sorry, I have it here. Okay, so do you want to go ahead and do a roll call, Mandy?
Sure.
See who's here?
Mr. Weddleton?
Here.
Ms. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Peterson?
Present.
Mr. Constant? Mr. Dunbar?
Here.
Ms. Zalatel?
Here.
Ms. Quinn Davidson?
Here.
And then for non-committee members, Mr. Rivera? Mr. Perez-Verdia? Ms. Allard? Ms. LaFrance? Chairs, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Can we go around who's here from, who else is on for staff and so on, or administrate?
Hi, this
Ryan
is
Yao
Bob
with the planning department.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so got Bob. Hi, Bob.
Hi, I'm here for development services and the building official.
Mr. Chairman, Chris Schutte, Director of Economic and Community Development, and I believe I heard mention from Ryan Yale, Planning Department.
Okay.
And Linda Brooks, Development Services.
Mr. Chair, Dave Whitfield, Planning Department.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
Michelle McNulty, Planning Department. I'm just here to listen.
Oh, you think so?
Yes,
That can change in a hurry. Okay. I see Dean.
I'm here.
Okay, good. So we have a full room. Is anyone else? Okay, so agenda before us, we have two. I'm sorry. Do we have Mandy? Anyone for Greengrocer?
Mandy, Jana Waltzine here, attorney for Greengrocer, and Helen Young is on the phone too. Helen, can you say hi so the assembly knows you're here? Take your phone off mute real quick.
Star 6 to unmute your phone.
Helen, press star 6 to unmute. She's the phone number ending in 97.
Can you guys hear us now?
What's
This is Victoria with Greengrocer. Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, now we can. Is that Victoria?
And I have Helen here as well.
Okay, awesome. Victoria Davis is the general manager, and Helen Young is the licensee. Just put Helen on so she can say hi real quick.
Okay, she can work on it. We'll get to their item pretty quick here. Will that work okay, Ms. Wilson? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so agenda before us, any changes to the agenda to the committee? Okay, hearing none. Let's go ahead and dive in. New businesses. We have two marijuana establishment application reviews for Greengrocer. One's a retail, one is manufacturing. They're both fairly similar. Let's go ahead and with retail. Mandy, do you want to do that?
Yes. For the license review, This is for their retail license, and the retail is going to be located in Suite A of the building. The manufacturing is going to be Suite B, similar. So for the general licensing restrictions of the retail, they were all addressed in their operating plan. There were taxes, fees, or fines found due. They have since paid them. We're just waiting for confirmation that the payment has been received. So it's still kind of pending, but you'll see that listed as an extra condition number 3 under section 2 of the AR. But that has been paid. We've shown that they've paid it. We're just waiting for that to come through on the Muni end. All of the safety and security requirements were addressed in their operating plan. They addressed all of the retail-specific requirements in their operating plan as well. And like I said, the only additional condition recommended for the license is listed as number 3 for the payment of the taxes, fees, and fines, and that is pending.
Okay. Thank you. Just for committee members, text in my 317-0222 number for getting in the queue would be fine. Sadly, I have a new phone that has no contacts in it. So someone who was making coffee, I'm not sure who that was. So if you want to get in the queue, please just put your name. You can just text me your name, and then I'll know what that means, if that will work for people. So who is making coffee and needs to be introduced?
John, it's just Jamie Allard. I'm making coffee.
Okay. Okay. Well, I hope it's good. Okay. So Jamie is with us now too. Thanks. Good morning, Jamie. Okay. Ryan?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Ryan Yell with the Planning Department. So this is a request for a special land use permit for a marijuana retail sales establishment within an I-1 district. And this facility is located northeast of the intersection of King Street and East Diamond Boulevard. And the proposed establishment was formerly a restaurant, and approximately 1,229 square feet of available interior space will be dedicated to retail operations, with proposed business hours being 7 days a week from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. And as previously mentioned by Mandy, this is going to be attached and co-located with a marijuana manufacturing facility, and that'll be heard on the next case. In preparation for the public hearing, the Planning Department did mail out 155 public hearing notices in accordance with the procedures of Anchorage Municipal Code. And as of this writing and as of today, we have not received any responses from the public or from the Taku Campbell Community Council. This particular case is somewhat of an anomaly. It's the first situation where we've seen a marijuana establishment exceed its maximum parking requirement. Typically, it's the other way around where they're struggling to find parking. But that is just due to the fact that the facility was previously a restaurant, which has the highest parking demand per code. So in order to allow the facility to remain a parking exception to exceed maximum parking requirements is going to be necessary. And that does require approval from both the traffic engineer and the planning director. So that condition is number 7 in the draft AR. There is no underlying neighborhood or district plan for this area, but the use is consistent with the Anchorage 2040 land use plan. And the provided site plans do not show any major alterations to the building facade or structure that would make it of dissimilar character, scale, or size when compared to surrounding structures. And the Planning Department does recommend approval of the special land use permit subject to the conditions as stated in the staff report. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
All right. Looks like Ford.
Thanks, John. I have a question, and I guess this is not specific to this property, but just goes off of what you just said, Ryan. So I did not realize, I know we had set up parking minimums, which we have talked about before, and which I am in general opposed to because I think they are not necessary, and in some cases they impose real costs and harm the community. But I'm surprised to hear that you also have to get an exception if you go in the other direction. So is that generally the case? We also have parking maximums, and what does the exception process look like for that? And also, what is,
Uh,
I mean, what is the logic, what's the justification for having a parking maximum? I'm surprised, given the prior stance of the traffic department that parking is a, not their stance, but basically our public policy is that parking is a public good, which I don't agree with, but that seems to be what underlies our policy. So why would there be a parking maximum at all?
So through the chair, Assemblyman Dunbar, that's a great question. The parking requirements are calculated to try and find the best happy medium for the anticipated demand of that use. Parking maximums exist solely to just prevent oceans of asphalt. You could theoretically, if you didn't have a maximum parking requirement, you could have a business that maybe only needed 3 parking spaces, but they could have a parking lot that had 100 parking spaces, and there'd really be nothing preventing them from doing that. So that's why maximum parking requirements exist. To go into further detail on that, I might have to defer to a traffic engineer.
Well, I am pleased to hear that the planning department is not a fan of seas of asphalt. It does make me, I am a little bit surprised because we have a lot of places in the city that are indeed seas of asphalt. And so it makes me think, and again, this is not your fault. This is prior assemblies or whatever it was, but we must have phenomenally large maximum parking requirements for some of these facilities because we have extraordinarily large parking lots that are almost never full. In my district, for example, the Walmart parking lot, for example, in my district is probably 3 times larger than it needs to be. But anyway, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course, just as a comment, that cap is based on the new Title 21, and I think most of what you're seeing, I think it is quite high, but most of what you're seeing is developments prior to the new code. I think Pete Peterson, I don't know if you were recognized when we did the roll call, so I see that you're here now. And Ms. Welty, you had a comment?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Through the chair, I just wanted to note that in your packet, you'll see that Randy Ribble, from traffic has already approved the site plan. And so I just want to make sure that, that staff knows that we've already got an approved site plan from traffic. So I guess what you're asking us to do is do something additional to already the approved site plan that's already been approved by traffic.
Is that to Mr. Yale? Can you address that?
Yes.
Through the chair, Janet, that's correct. So this particular exception requires concurrence between the planning director and the traffic engineer. And I've spoken with both, and they don't feel that there's any reason to not grant the exception, but it is something that is required by code.
Okay, so could you maybe shoot me an email after this meeting? Because I've never had to get an exception from having too many spaces, and kind of point me in the direction so I can get that done.
Yes, yeah, I can do that for you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything else on this? God. Anything else on this from the committee?
No, I recommend approval.
Is there a second?
Second, Zalatal.
Any opposition to that? Okay, hearing none, we will recommend approval of this one at our meeting on the 28th. And moving on then to the manufacturing. Mandy?
Thank you. So for Greengrocer, the manufacturing, like we stated earlier, this is Suite B of the same building. So similar with their general licensing restrictions, all of the manufacturing were addressed in their operating plan. Same thing with the taxes, fees, and fines. This is pending, and you'll see that as the extra condition under Section 2. And so aside from that, there weren't any additional licensing conditions recommended.
All right, thank you. Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, Ryan Yell with the Planning Department. And I can keep this brief because there is a lot of, since it is the same building, there's a lot of things I had previously mentioned about the site, but it'd be 1,433 square feet of interior space for the manufacturing area. Anticipated operating hours are going to be 7 days a week from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. We also have not received any public comments from either the general public or from the Taku-Campbell Community Council on this particular case. And again, the condition to apply and obtain the exception from the traffic engineer and the planning director also applies to this case and is listed as condition 7 in the draft AR. But the planning department does recommend approval subject to the conditions stated in the staff report.
All right,
So thank you.
thank you. Any questions from the committee?
Yes, Mr.
Chris-
Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you. There was a comment about there being a discrepancy between the floor plan that was submitted to the municipality versus the one that was submitted to the state. Can you talk about that and how that might need to be reconciled, or if it's still an issue?
Yes, I can touch on that. So through the chair, Assemblywoman Kennedy, so the floor plan that was submitted with the municipal application, I believe there were some very minor discrepancies between that floor plan and the one that was submitted at state level. So that's just an advisory comment to notify the applicant that if they've made changes to the floor plan that have not been communicated to AMCO, that they need to do that, or vice versa, if they've made changes to the AMCO floor plan but have not notified the municipality, they need to take the appropriate steps to modify that floor plan at the appropriate level.
So if I can follow up on that, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So is that Ryan, is that any kind of an issue that we actually have to watch? You said it was minor, so what are we really talking about in terms of how this might impact the licensing either from the state level or from us?
Through the chair, Ryan Yale, Planning Department, I believe that the discrepancies were just the placement of an interior wall or two, which in that case, that could be approved administratively through the Planning Department since there's no expansion of the licensed premises area greater than 20%. So that's something that wouldn't necessarily affect the impact that the facility has on the community. It's really just a security check and making sure that the floor plan that's on file is actually accurate with what was constructed on site.
Mr. Chair, can I add to that? This is Mandy.
Yeah, please do.
So for the licensing portion of it, when the final inspections are conducted, land use enforcement goes in, and if they find that the premises doesn't match the diagram in the application packet, they wouldn't certify their inspection. So that would be caught prior to the license being issued.
Okay, great. That's helpful. Thank you, both Ryan and Mandy. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. I guess while we're on the square footage, I had a little thing jumped out to me. So we've got in this building, which is 3,900 square feet-ish, the manufacturing, the retail, and that leaves about 1,258 square feet that aren't accounted for in that building. Are there plans for that? And that, I guess, staff first, if you have a comment, and then Ms. Welting or the applicant.
Through the chair, Ryan Yale, Planning Department, I believe that extra space could be used for storage, but any future plans on that, I guess I would defer to the applicant.
Yes, this is Janet Weltine. For now, it's just, going to be used as storage. It might be rented out later to another use, or it might be expanded to, and that would be a major modification. We'd have to come back in front of this body and do the community engagement process again. But right now it's kind of up in the air. We're not, really sure, and, just trying to get the insides, built out and ready to go. And then we're going to turn to that extra space later on.
Okay, all right, thank you. There's a comment, the closest protected use is a video arcade, and I'm gonna guess that's Dave and Buster's, is that right?
Through the chair, that's correct. It's Dave and Buster's.
Okay. Which is like a million miles away as far as perception goes. It's kind of one of those cases, so it must be just to the lot line of the Diamond Center, is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. Anything else on this from the committee or others? What do we recommend?
I'll move to recommend approval.
Second.
Any opposition? Okay, so to the applicant, what we'll do is we are a committee, and on the 28th, when this comes up, we will state that we looked at this and discussed it and recommended that the full assembly approve it. And we just speak as a committee, and it really depends on the vote on Tuesday. So we hope that you'll be there in case there's questions. Oh, and actually, brief comment on this, actually. I drive by there frequently, and I think this is fairly typical of what we see in the marijuana things, is they've taken that building, which was not a bad looking building, but really it's looking very nice on the exterior now. I think the that little part of town is a little bit nicer looking right now. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, so ongoing business is a permit fee adjustments for contractor inspections, AO 2019-116S as amended. And I believe that is probably the Bob Dole and Chris Schutte show.
Through the chair, this is Bob Dole. I'm prepared to open on it, and Chris will fill in the pieces that I'm missing, if that's okay.
Okay, and you emailed a presentation.
I emailed a presentation. I pulled up the first slide and shared my screen, which reads 2020 fee changes, July 23rd, 2020, for those who have it or can see their screen.
Okay. People see it okay?
And through the chair, this is Chris Schutte, as Bob indicated. He'll largely run the show. We also have on our bench Linda Brooks from Development Services Department. And Bob, if you'll indulge me before you start, just to help reorient committee members as to what we're talking about and how we got to this point. Through the assembly, there was an update to the fee schedule for many of the Title 21 and Title 23 based services last year that took effect in 2020. Like a lot of complex programming jobs or systems, once you rebuild the engine and fire it up, sometimes you discover that not all of the pistons are firing correctly or the plugs aren't sparking. So we have heard from both this committee and from members of the building community about a couple of areas in the fee ordinance that once fired up didn't produce the horsepower that we were expecting. So in response to what was some concerns about the price difference between under the previous fee schedule and the current fee schedule, and some fee schedule approaches that just weren't panning out the way they were intended to, Bob and his team have developed these amendments to the 2020 fee changes that we would propose to bring forward in an ordinance later this fall for effect January 1st of 2021. And with that, I will pass it over to Bob.
Through the chair, this is Bob Dole. And just a reminder, one of the major accomplishments of the fee reforms that the Assembly passed last year was to make building safety functions self-sustaining with the 161 fund rather than drawing upon general tax revenues as had been previously happening. Linda Brooks, who's on the line, played a major role in terms of doing the calculations to make that work out. So I'm switching to the next slide that reads number 1, reinstate flat fees for commercial re-roofing permits. Short version of how we got here. Before 2009, the municipality of Anchorage followed most jurisdictions in doing a valuation-based approach to re-roofing permits. In 2009, a flat fee approach was adopted. In 2019, we reverted back to the percentage of project valuation for commercial re-roofing. For residential, we retained the flat fees. Just a quick aside, along the way, I know Assembly Member Kennedy has inquired about this. We have implemented roofing inspections this year. And what I think we're finding is two things. From comments from some of the crews, they're now fixing things that they would not have fixed before. I've turned to the next slide, why re-roofing inspections. And also it's leveling the playing field. We've heard from some high quality roofing companies who are doing right on their roofing jobs to make sure material that's damaged is being repaired before they go forward. We're increasing the level of compliance for all roofing companies to do that, increasing safety for Anchorage residents, and not letting quality companies get underbid by other companies taking shortcuts. I'm now moving to the slide beyond the depiction of the some stuff found on a roofing inspection. It again says number 1, new flat fee amounts for commercial re-roofs. And so after we implemented these changes, we were approached through CEDC based upon input from roofing companies asking to revert to a flat fee to ease their ability to predict the amount and the cost. And because of, for about 52 permits, the price was much higher than they expected. In order to do that and stay revenue neutral for these types of permits, you will see on this slide what we propose a range from a minimum of $525 to a maximum of $1,085. And again, this keeps it revenue neutral and does not shift costs to these roofing jobs or away from them, but rather takes that same portion of the building safety budget and reallocates it in a different manner based upon a request from this group. And as we'll see on the next slide, we got away from the flat.
Sorry, Chris Constant is here now and was, as Bob started, and then I'm sorry, Meg, did you want to chime in right now?
I can wait till he's done with this slide, but it is about this slide.
Okay, so go ahead, Bob, why don't you finish this, and then Meg, you can ask your question.
Okay.
Thanks.
And just, I'm going to flip to the next slide now that says number 1, statistics comparing past, current, and proposed fee approaches. And I mentioned the regressive nature, and I'm going to draw your attention to the middle portion in brown and the top and bottom areas, which are done in blue and green respectively. Basically, when we go to a flat fee, what happens is a number of permits, about 180 that would have paid the minimum fee, instead end up paying the maximum fee. What that does for those 52 that would pay over the maximum fee, they no longer have to pay a proportion of valuation. It's a flat rate, but rather the cost of their project is distributed to those property owners with smaller projects. And but this approach would keep us revenue neutral for about the 160 grand or so per year that we expect commercial re-roofing permits to bring in. And through the chair, I'm ready for Assembly Member Zolotel's question.
Okay, Meg, go ahead.
Thank you. So every time we move to a flat fee, it comes up for the person at 1,501 square feet and 3,001 square feet that they got, unfairly bumped into a new category. I know we're trying to make it more equitable, but can you talk to me a little bit about why these square foot cutoffs and why this makes sense, because that's where the fee increase is, because it always comes up.
Through the chair, the nature of these have been long-standing kind of models in terms of the different levels, and where you would see levels of effort more likely to see phases break in requiring additional inspections, and also frankly just the expectations of the industry that this range has been used for over a decade. Anytime you create a maximum, you will always have one over it. We can model this with any square foot you want. This has been kind of an industry standard for these break-off points in Anchorage, which is why we carried forward. It also provides better comparison with the last decade. But if we want to make it 1,600 square feet, 3,200 square feet, and 4,000 square feet, we can do whatever.
I'm good. If it's the industry standard, that's good to know. That's not something I knew. So thank you.
At least the industry standard up here of where the expectations are. It is also the numbers we retain for residential side, but we can make these numbers whatever you want and model from there. So.
Any other questions from the committee?
Could I just chime in?
Sure. Who is that?
Linda Brooks.
Oh, sure.
My one comment is, we know which roofs fall in these sizes because that's the data that's been tracked, and these square footages have been in use, since before 2009. But if we were to go and try to model different roof sizes, we would have to open up every permit and read the detailed information in every permit to come up with what the exact size of each roof was, to put that all into a spreadsheet. And we're looking at a project that would be very, very labor intensive, time intensive to be able to compute, which we could do, but it would prevent us from working on some other priorities. So I just wanted to comment that we don't have the data easily accessible. It would be a major research effort.
Okay, that's important. Thanks. Any other comments on this from the committee? Okay, so I want to make clear maybe for myself. So this is for commercial re-roofing projects. So it's so we have a different system if it's a brand new roof. And okay, and how many is there anyone from the industry on the line? Because this is I guess an improvement from the current situation, but it is substantially higher than the old fees with the tier system.
Through the chair, this is Bob Dole. This is revenue neutral. What you're seeing here, though, is that in order for 52 property owners to pay a lower fee, about 180 have to pay a higher fee, bumping from a $525 fee up to the new $1,085 fee, which is what the model was prior to the reforms this body adopted last year. So it's reallocating the cost of the bigger projects onto the smaller property owners.
Okay, so it depends on who you are if you're happy.
Exactly. If I'm a box store, I love this. If I'm a small business owner with a small standalone roof, I'm not so happy.
Okay.
But this is the model that was in place before before this year.
Okay, I don't hear. I mean, no one seems to be showing up. If I don't know, Mr. Kaysen or someone else from the industry.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, gotcha. Okay, is that Drew Kaysen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have not had an opportunity to discuss this with the full membership by any stretch, but those that I've talked to seem to think that it was seemed very fair. I think that there's recognition that these inspections are important and that they take time to do, and so that there should be a cost. And I think that this corrects for the concern that there were going to be some projects that had extremely high costs. And And so, yeah, I think that the rapid react, though I can't speak for absolutely everyone, is that they thought that this looked good. Certainly going to reach out and work to find some of our smaller members to make sure that they're comfortable with things. But what Bob is expressing as a concern has not been expressed to me too much.
Okay, so Drew, you're the home builders, and this is commercial re-roofs. I mean, how much of your constituency would be impacted by this?
A number of the people who do roofing do work in both the commercial and residential markets. And so I think that if anything, we have a number of people involved in smaller, who do, smaller projects and stuff. But I think that it was our members are some of the ones who had expressed some real concern over this and been bringing it forward. And they feel like this addresses those concerns.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else from any roofers out there on the phone? *6 unmutes you. Okay, hearing none now. So Bob, did you send this out to industry at all, or is this first premiere right now?
Through the chair, this is premiering right now due to other challenges we're having right now. It is literally hot off the press this morning.
Okay, well, that's fine. I understand you guys are real busy. Okay, did you want to continue on then?
Through the chair, I would like to continue on into slide 5, which is eliminate pay by inspection for residential projects valued at $40,000 or less.
Okay.
And a quick reminder of how we got here. In 2009, one of the 2009 fee reforms, an identified issue was that the belief that small residential projects were not paying their fair share of building safety service cost because they took more inspections per valuation than bigger projects. Before that, both construction, new and renovation construction were done on a valuation model before 2009, with residential and commercial paying the same rate. What happened in 2009 was two things. First, we went to a fee per inspection for renovations. And second, we went to a lower valuation rate for residential, about 40% less than commercial in terms of the valuation multipliers. For those really small jobs, residential jobs, they did in fact end up paying more towards their share for building safety services. However, the flip side of that was for major commercial renovations, they ended up paying far less than they would have using the valuation rates from before. And that was one of the two major drivers leading to the lack of a solvent budget for building safety services in the 161 fund. The other major issue being not correcting for inflation. So originally we looked at different ways to address that, and the concern with the 2019 ordinance was twofold. First, to get out of the paperwork drag that was required for how we have to log inspections on a fee per inspection basis. And second, for those small, probably owner builder projects, what would be a means to reduce the price they were going to pay for the services being involved. So we calculated originally on that for that owner builder after an amendment, paying a flat fee of $350 for under 40,000, a minimum fee, and then per inspection. I'm moving to the next slide, which the first line reads, after AHBA raised this issue at a prior meeting. Originally, I think we all envisioned this $40,000 shelf and below being there for the owner builder. However, many of the small contractors expressed dismay at the cost they were incurring because of they needed far more than one inspection. And in some cases, they believe they would actually be spending less to value a project at $40,000 rather than less. So at that point, the CEDC asked us to go back and determine what it would take to eliminate that $40,000 shelf. In full disclosure, by doing the process different below 40,000 and above it, it does add to our administrative burden and time also. So we're not adverse to changing it at all from that regard. We shifted to a $360 minimum fee, but based on the track record we're since been able to derive and looking at those under $40,000 projects, by and large, they take several more inspections than just that one. So in order to do the change that HBA requested CEDC have us look at, we would have to take the residential multiplier of 0.009 and add 0.0105 to it in order to remain revenue neutral and not reallocate those costs elsewhere. I'm shifting now to the next slide in terms of showing if we made that change, what that would look like at different levels. This is slide 7. It's a graph of 2017, 2018 permit amounts. Basically, we're looking at about $1 million of our annual budget in terms of how that amount gets reallocated. By doing the valuation changed and increasing it with that amount, you can see there that the small jobs where those small contractors ask AHBA to look at us remove that 40,000 shelf, they will be paying less. However, that is borne by new construction who will be paying more in order to get to that point. We turn to slide 8. I think we show that more graphically in terms of the example that was brought to us by AHBA of their contractor with the 5 inspections. They would pay $508 less under this approach. However, a new construction of a $400,000 house would pay $600 more. By making those changes, we maintain revenue neutrality here, but I think it's important we not deny that there is a shift of the cost there. Again, though, in order to keep this revenue neutral, we can eliminate the shelf, and we've identified the addition for the residential construction valuation multiplier. We would need to do so 0.105 or about 15%.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? I don't hear any. Bob, questions. So, I mean, you're looking at this, and I think it's fair to say so there's winners and there's losers in these changes, and that's good to see that. Are the people who do remodels different companies from those who do new construction?
Through the chair, I think in Anchorage there's a lot of crossover. What you do, you have a lot of individual contractors who pay different rates. Those who actually pull the permits, I suggest, though, would be different. A major home builders such as those on the HBA board are pulling their own permits for that new construction, whereas of smaller projects, the people that would subcontract for them on a bigger project are pulling their own ones because the major home builders aren't redoing someone's bathroom. They're off building a lot of new homes this year with the most starts since 2015.
Okay, which would be an interesting discussion. That's probably great news. Okay, and again, is this hot off the press? So we're seeing this and it's not been shopped out at all?
This is hot off the press. We're ready to launch the AM and AO tomorrow if you want, but this is hot off the press. I know once we launch it, it will need to go back to this committee anyway for some discussions.
And through the chair, this is Chris Schutte. I believe it is our intent to use the CEDC meeting today as our first sounding board for the proposal or the changes that are being proposed, but that we would follow today's CEDC meeting with more targeted virtual meetings, of course, with industry partners and others.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the people who participated, some of the roofers and plumbers, and then Ron Thompson. Yeah, I'd want to hear from them probably before you did an AO. I mean, it seems to make sense. I mean, do you have a plan to send it to people who have attended these meetings before? Or how would you shop it around?
So through the chair, as you just described, rather than submit an AO into the legislative workflow and then begin outreach, it is our intention to begin outreach before that time, using both the slides that Bob presented or some form of these slides, as well as a draft or working draft to share with them prior to it making its way into the legislative queue.
Okay, and if you get a lot of pushback, then what would from these people in the industry, then would you make changes and bring that change version to the as an AO to the assembly, or would we come back here to the committee?
Through the chair, it will depend on I guess it will depend on how well it's received. If it is roundly rejected, which would surprise me, then we would come back to this group, I think, with our industry partners and help explain where the differences of opinion reside. But I believe that Bob has done a tremendous job with the proposal that will be positively viewed by industry. But it is our intent to move from the CEDC to those discussions.
Okay. Good. But we've been roundly educated that we need to shop things out way before our normal procedures don't always work. Okay. Any comments from the committee? So we I'm sorry. Go ahead. Who was that?
This is Crystal. So
yeah, go ahead, Crystal.
Thank you. You know what? I just want to say thank you too. I think this is amazing to see the kind of mathematical processes that people went through to try to figure out how this gets a little fairer to some, and that we don't have those real huge costs on the upper end that seem to be so problematic. But I also appreciate the fact that you're going to shop this around a bit, because I know there is a difference between somebody that's just building new homes and doesn't get quite as wrapped up in some of the fees as much as there is people that are doing the remodel, the small bathroom projects or kitchen projects that some of these smaller contractors, subcontractors are getting into. And so for them, I'm sure they want to kind of work these numbers from a real practical standpoint to see how this really kind of plays out for them. So I'm interested, in really getting what kind of feedback you all hear. So I'm glad that you're going out with that first and, kind of try this out a little bit. But I think overall, I'm really impressed that you've managed to go in this direction and still try to keep everything as fee neutral or as revenue neutral as possible. So I just want to say thank you. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I guess Meg, go ahead.
Thank you. I just need a little bit of education or reminder. When we talk about a residential multiplier, I'm just thinking about multifamily residential in terms of a duplex or a triplex. Can you remind me where that's gonna cut off or change? I apologize if you'd said it and I missed it.
Through the chair, normally when we talk about residential, we're talking about basically three sorts of entities. The first entity is a single family residence. The second one is a duplex. The third one is what would look like a townhouse on the exterior, but basically how it's built internal to it with firewall separation and other things. It's basically standalone units put side by side by side. By and large, though, a fourplex or an eightplex is considered commercial for the sake of this discussion. Granted, it has a residential use. However, those buildings are actually built into the International Building Code to basically a higher standard because of the more added complexity of them. But mostly, what we're talking here for residential is single family and duplex. Anything bigger than that would fall into the commercial side.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, if there are no further questions on the resident, on how to address the $40,000 shelf, I'd like to proceed to the final area.
Please do.
So I've turned to slide 9, which is a correction to elevator biennial inspection fees. In looking at our fees, we did a lot of changes last year, and this is one we'd like a redo on. Although there are winners and losers on the last two we talked about, this one we believe is frankly just winners. Basically, we tried to adjust off hours rather than just doing adjustment inflations to fixed fees for these elevator inspections, and we believe it would be more equitable to reduce them to the corrected fee amounts in the right-hand side. I've yet to hear a building owner complain that we should reduce their elevator inspection fees, in full disclosure. This one's pretty simple.
You raised them more than you found you needed to.
Through the chair, that's correct. Basically, there are hours associated with these, and we multiplied hours times the new hourly rate rather than just taking the fixed fee and making an inflation adjustment to that. To be candid, the other thing that has happened out there is the elevator maintenance companies have gotten far more efficient at these. Also, that long and short, we raised it more than we needed to, and we believe it's more equitable to do the reductions shown on the right, and this will still be safe-sustaining for elevator services.
Okay. This is commercial, residential, everybody?
Through the chair, this is by and large commercial because most residential elevators are not inspected once most homeowners do not have to have them inspected after initial installation. So these are the biennial ones that are commercial.
Okay. Okay, I missed that. Thanks.
Yeah.
So that's every couple of years you'll take a look and those went down.
Through the chair, that's correct, yes.
Okay. Okay, someone texted me with a comment, and whoever that is, I have a new cell phone. It doesn't tell me who you are, so go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. It's me, Crystal.
Yeah.
So, again, I just want to say thank you. I didn't even realize that looking at the elevator inspection fees was kind of on your radar. So I'm really pleased to see this one as well. And I have heard from small, churches, that have small, just one floor elevators, have mentioned that they were just surprised at the costs. And I know some of these elevator inspection companies in that have been amazed at some of the increases to the cost. So I think this is, like you said, this is kind of a win-win. It's going to be well received. So I just appreciate you taking a look at this and figuring out something that will absolutely save people some money. So thank you and kudos again. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, Chris here.
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, just to Bob, I want to say thank you as well. It's not so often that people, when we make policies, are willing to step back and redo it because maybe we didn't get it right the first time. So I'm grateful for that aspect of this too.
Through the chair, Linda Brooks owes the kudos. She's the quality control after sometimes the building official gets doing too much math too fast.
Okay, what jumps out to me here is up to 5 hours of inspection time. How long does it take to inspect an elevator?
Through the chair, frequently we approach that 5-hour mark or that 8-hour for the electric geared. Some are taking less. There's a few that have taken substantially more than that. It really depends on the age of the elevator, the quality of maintenance of it, and the diligence of the elevator maintenance company. We could spend a whole separate CEDC talking about variables of the health of the elevator inventory in Anchorage. It is a very arcane area. But mostly they approach those limits pretty closely, but they don't go, increasingly fewer are going over those amounts.
Okay, because that's an inspection time vastly more than the typical, like if you go to a roof or something, what we were hearing is under an hour is typical.
Through the chair, it is substantially more, and in the COVID era of close contacts, it presents substantial challenges. To put a new commercial elevator in service usually involves about 12 hours of an inspector with the installers in the bottom of elevator shaft or other confined areas of 12 by 12 or less. So there's substantial inspection and safety issues that go into elevators. I think we all have the nightmares of either being trapped in a car or the car plummeting down, which shouldn't happen. And this is, it's a no-fail thing, which is why there's a lot of work that goes into inspecting them right.
Well, good. I like to feel confident in my elevators. Okay, any other comments from the committee or if there's anyone in the industry, *6 to unmute. Okay, do you want to continue, Bob? You've got one last slide.
Yes, through the chair, I've slid to slide 10, which is just a recap. These are the 3 areas. We will shop them out to the industry. We will send out our email server. We'll hang it on our webpage. We will reach out to the more frequent participants with this group. I have no doubt, like how you all have spent several evenings, that as this gets out to y'all, we will still hear from folks that did not pay attention or did not hear about it until we brought it out. But we'll do everything we can to spam the community of folks we think may be interested in these proposals.
Okay, and then so we have meeting Tuesday. So like you might introduce at our first meeting in August, or what do you think?
So through the chair, this is Chris Schutte. Given that we're not entirely sure how long a quote unquote roadshow will take in the COVID-19 era, but because we are targeting a January 1, 2020 implementation date, I don't believe that we need to rush this onto the agenda in August, but perhaps shortly thereafter. It will largely depend on how quickly we're able to mobilize with Drew's group and others to have that industry conversation, and then if there are needs to come back to this committee.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead. Is it Crystal?
Yeah, thank you. So I just kind of wanted to hear again what I think I heard, and that is that the effective date of this, should it pass, would be January 1st. So there's probably no intention of starting it any earlier, like October, and I'm assuming that that's because it impacts the 2020 budget if you change anything kind of midstream. So am I hearing that right? The intent would be January 1st to make these effective?
Through the chair, that is correct.
And could I chime in here too, please? Linda Brooks.
Sure, go ahead, Linda.
What everybody may want to keep in mind is there currently is in effect a 25% discount on all Title 23 and 21 fees that is in effect through the end of December. So keep that in mind, as that makes it more logical to have this implemented at the beginning of January.
Okay.
Oh, good point. I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Kaysen? Do you have any thoughts on that effective date and the kind of outreach?
Yeah, I guess I feel like a number of these items we didn't feel consulted on ahead of time. I realized that before these fee changes went into effect, there were meetings with AHBA. I was not with them at the time, but what I've seen is that it sounds like there was only part of what the fee changes were that was really discussed with them. Some of the things like the commercial re-roofs were deemed sort of not pertaining to their interests. And so all of this stuff came through, and a number of people from different branches of the industry were very surprised at the new fees in January. And we immediately reached out. And the fact that it takes a year to address what a lot of people thought was a major issue seems concerning. Understand that this has been in the time of COVID, and a 25% reduction is appreciated and reduces the sting of a lot of these things. So that's my sort of immediate reaction. It's not something I've discussed with them precisely in terms of the effective date, and if that's something we want to try to make you change your minds about.
Okay. Oh, thanks. Crystal? Did you, or wait, I got another text. Oh, Pete, go ahead, Pete.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just the elevator thing sort of reminded me of we've got an aging population, and there's going to be more of these chairlifts installed. What kind of an inspection is required for one of those chairlifts that are installed in residents around town?
Through the chair, this is Bob Dole, building official, for answering this question. There's an initial inspection done when the chairlift is installed along with a plan review. And in a normal residence, that is and by and large, that's where you see a chairlift. There are no further inspections after that.
Okay, and how is the fee set up for those?
Through the chair, it's a separate fee, and we did reduce those for accessibility issues based upon an amendment when we did the Title 23 update. After this, we can send you the separate fee for that. It is in terms of what we do for those specific concerns. It isn't one of these fees we're looking at here. These are periodic inspections.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to answer that question? This is Linda Brooks.
Sure, go ahead.
It was amended. There was an amendment, as Bob said, to reduce the fees for the accessibility equipment at the time that last year's ordinance passed. And I'm looking for the table on that gives the actual amounts. I think it's $350, and I think that might have actually been a reduction, from what it was before.
The amendment was permitting fee shall be reduced by 50% for accessibility equipment.
Yeah, and that was done when the ordinance last year went through. So lower fees are already in effect for the accessibility.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Maggie, you're in the queue.
Thank you. So this is all proposed to be revenue neutral. So regardless of the implementation time, it's not going to necessarily affect development services budget, because we're starting to think about the budget for 2021. I just want to make sure that's right.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make a comment that there's other factors at play besides the budget. A consideration for us is working with IT and with the permitting counter staff that already lost 4 or 5 positions. 3 people got promoted. 1 person moved to another state. So part of our thinking is about our ability to roll this out accurately, technically correct, working with all the people that need to be working on it behind the scenes.
And through the chair, this is revenue neutral for the 21 budget. To be honest, if we have to implement it in 20, we're going to incur additional overtime to try to make these changes on top of what we're trying to do with a very minimal staff during building season.
Thank you.
And this is Linda Brooks. I finally got to the old elevator accessibility biennial inspection rate. It used to be $450, and last year's ordinance reduced it to $350. So that we're talking about the stair lift kind of inspections.
All right, thank you. Okay, so Eric Visser's online, but *6 is not working. Mandy, is that something you can handle?
Can you guys hear me?
Is that Eric?
Can you hear me? Yeah, this is Eric Visser.
Yes, we do. Go ahead.
All right, great, perfect. Yeah, so Eric Visser, president for AHBA. Like Bob said, I think this is hot off the press, so we've just been taking a look at it for the past couple hours. The feedback so far that we've been getting, I think some of our members are going to struggle with just the fact of trying to increase every cost of a house by $600. We appreciate what the building department's trying to do with remaining revenue neutral, but really just focusing on the fact that we should try and, in this COVID time and the economic impact that this is all going to have, try and reduce costs as much as possible. But we, appreciate the fact that you guys are trying to work with this, and we'll definitely be talking to all of our members to try and get more feedback about what they think about this proposal. So just wanted to bring that up, and yeah, we appreciate you guys putting this forward.
Don't go anywhere yet, Eric. Any questions from the committee? Okay, so Eric, it's revenue neutral, so you would have increase in 600 per house then, but other, I mean, does that balance out? Because your members certainly do all kinds of work, and some of the home builders, I'd say, Holquist and places like that, do they also do remodels or anything, or is this a really split up industry?
I would say for the most part, it is fairly split up. Yeah. So, you got the Spinells and the Holquist where they won't touch a remodel permit ever. Myself, I do a mix of both. I do remodels as well as new home construction. So it'll affect me on both sides. There are, smaller builders out there who also just build, 3, 4, 5 homes a year where they're only going to get affected by the, increase in the new construction fee, and they won't reap the benefit on the remodel side.
Okay. Okay,
but
good.
From a percentage perspective, I don't have that exact number in terms of what, contractors are doing just new home construction versus remodel and new home construction.
Okay, well, that's helpful. Thanks. Okay, any other comments, committee or others? Final remarks, Bob, or are we done here? Sounds like silence. Someone want to move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, well, thanks, everybody. We finished early. Way to go. And thanks, Bob and Chris and Linda, for the work on this.
Thanks, John. Bye, everyone. Talk to you very soon.
Bye.
Thank you.